My sister, our land has a throbbing heart. It doesn't cease to beat, and it endures the unendurable. It keeps the secrets of hills and wombs. This land sprouting with spikes and palms is also the land that gives birth to a freedom fighter. This land, my sister, is a woman.
Unrest
Radio.
As the crisis in Palestine continues to unfold, the world closely monitors Germany's response. The silence of German political leaders regarding the plight of women facing genocide in Palestine not only signifies a failure of moral leadership but also contradicts the value of justice, equality, and human rights that Germany purports to uphold. Despite increasing international condemnation of Israel's actions in Palestine, which includes widespread atrocities and human rights violations, the German government has adopted a hostile stance towards individuals and groups advocating for Palestinian rights. This crackdown has disproportionately targeted women who have been leading grassroots movement and solidarity campaigns. The silence of white German feminists regarding the repression of Palestine solidarity activists starkly contrasts with the broader feminist movement commitment to intersectionality and solidarity with marginalized communities. While feminist principles advocates for standing up against all forms of oppression, including colonialism and imperialism, many white German feminists have neglected to apply this principle to the struggle of Palestinian women. Dear listeners, today on International Women's Day, 6 women from diverse communities living in Germany shared their experiences, thoughts, and insights about German political repression regarding Palestine solidarity.
Hey everyone, I'm going to speak on behalf of a person who's afraid to use her own voice in front of the microphone for fear of losing her job as a teacher. I get the feeling from the German center that I'm doing something criminal when I take to the streets for Palestine. Since the German media declared all events to be anti-Semitic, I feel compelled to disguise or mask myself at demonstrations. Passers-by who see me with the keffiyeh or the Palestinian flag give me contemptuous looks. This often makes me feel insecure. White feminism is currently showing once again how much it likes to decide what is feminist and what is not. Women who call themselves feminists and don't stand up for Palestinian women show me that not every life is equally valuable to them. They show their superiority by not being interested in the problems of all women. They have their rigid image of what is feminist and what's not. I call on all feminists who are not committed to Palestine to reconsider whether they are allowed to call themselves feminists at all.
The types of repression I had to face in German society for supporting the Palestinian cause and for speaking out against the ongoing genocide in Gaza include police violence during demonstrations, arrests for slogans, and also verbal abuse. During one demonstration, a police officer kicked my leg in order to push me away from a friend who was taken soon after by the police for no plausible reason. This police violence caused me pain and a bruise. During a vigil, I was taken by the police for shouting the slogan "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." I was told that I will receive a criminal charge and I wasn't allowed to participate in the vigil anymore. The police ordered me to leave the place, adding that there are cameras everywhere and that I will end up in a cell if I do not abide by their order. However, what hurts me the most and what I have to experience over and over again is verbal abuse. I always remember one specific incident back in school. I was maybe 16 or 17. I had English class and I don't remember how we came to the topic, but it was about my Palestinian identity. I stated that I am Palestinian, after which my teacher asked me if I was born in Germany. I affirmed her question, adding that my parents originally come from Palestine. In return, she replied that my parents are Palestinian, not me, and she ended the conversation with saying that Palestine isn't a state anyways. My classmates reacted to this comment with the kind of exclamation you make after someone has been dissed. I was dissed and I was silenced. I often remember this incident and also the feeling it has triggered in me. I'm so stupid and I do not know what I'm talking about. From my experience, I would say that one of the challenges of women in Palestine solidarity movements is having to additionally fight against the right-wing white German man who sees himself in a superior position and takes the right to dictate to them to what extent they should speak. I believe the lack of significant voices from the German white feminist community is due to racism, whether it's openly displaced or innerly hidden. In my opinion, women from the German white feminist community who remain silent about the genocide in Gaza do so because they hold on to the belief that Palestinian men are terrorists, a picture which of course is always produced by Western media and politicians. I think what many women of the German white feminist community see is the barbaric and violent Palestinian man that oppresses women. Western media and politicians contributed and continue to contribute to the dehumanization of Palestinian men by producing these pictures. So why should the white liberal woman say something against the ongoing genocide when she innerly believes that the genocide is necessary in order to fight, from her point of view, terroristic Palestinian men that degrade women? I definitely feel marginalized and disrespected within a racist society for my political views. Losing friends over my political views is something that happens again and again. It's already hard to live in a society that is completely blinded by Western propaganda, but when friends of yours decide to remain silent, to take a neutral stance, and to repeat the propaganda, which again displays their hidden racism, it hits you even harder. As a Palestinian, I do not feel understood in German society, nor do I feel that I belong to it. On the occasion of International Women's Day, I would like to draw attention to some of the problems women in Gaza have been facing since the beginning of the ongoing genocide. 70% of the fatalities in Gaza are women and children. 2 mothers are killed every hour in Gaza. There are about 45,000 pregnant women in Gaza who have to deliver their babies in tents with no assistance and under unsanitary conditions due to the collapse of Gaza's healthcare system. Pregnant women in Gaza are lacking protection, hygiene, nutrition, water, everything. And they are forced to have cesarean sections without anesthesia or painkillers. Women in Gaza also struggle to find menstrual pads and running water, and they are lacking a private place to manage menstrual hygiene. So therefore, on International Women's Day, I call everyone who truly cares for women and for women's rights to speak up and to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
In Germany, we have been experiencing massive repression since October 2023, with slogans being allowed at times and then banned again a few months later. It is more difficult to stand up for Palestine as a woman, but it is even more difficult to stand up for the rights of Palestinians as a dark-skinned woman. I have been going to demonstrations across Germany since October, and so far I have been to the International Court in The Hague, the Netherlands, 3 times, which enables me to draw comparisons between Germany and the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, there are no bans. Everyone is allowed to express themselves freely, which cannot be said of Germany. To come back to the topic, Germany always had a racism problem, besides the genocide experiences, advocacy, and active support. I remember one particular case, a few months ago. I was wearing my Boycott Zara t-shirt and carrying my poster, which also called for a boycott. After the demonstration, I was on my way home alone, and I was approached by a man. He asked me what the nonsense was all about and asked if I had created the poster myself, as I told him yes. Whereupon he said, well, you have learned to write here in Germany and are doing such nonsense on our streets. I asked him what nonsense he was talking about, if I'm actively campaigning against the genocide. He became so aggressive and threatened to hit me. I am not just a woman who can be intimidated by any man, so I told him, hit me. I am standing here after some verbal arguments, and the foreign couple intervened. Then the couple told the man to just move on and to leave me alone. He did, but since then, I have never carried a placard with me at night again. Finally, I would like to mention that I have noticed that we women are more on the streets for the Palestinians. I have not yet seen a demonstration where the proportion of women is less. In this sense, stay strong, my queens. Never be silenced, and happy International Women's Day.
I am a left-winged Jewish person. I was raised in a Zionist family, which is unfortunately until now very Zionist. I'm the only one speaking up for Palestinians and for the Palestinian right of living and freedom and breathing and existing. So, this is important to say because the experience I made in Germany by white German people were always the people with whom I experienced the things always knew about my background. So I will spare the little experiences we all had, like being shouted at and being insulted, feeling absolutely uncomfortable. But there were 2 big experiences which had big consequences to my career. So I am a psychologist, and for being to be a psychotherapist, you need to make this Ausbildung to become a psychotherapist. So I made an application, and I had to explain my biography. And in this biography, I also told for sure that I'm a Jewish person. And I was specifically asked by 2 white German dudes, independent from another. So there was one meeting and another, like interviews. I was asked about 1 hour also about my identity and also about my views about Israel. And I am a person, I will never lie. I will always tell the truth about this fucking country. So I said that I am against I am against Israel. I am fighting for Palestinian rights. I explained my views, and I was. You need to know you are always accepted to this Ausbildung. So they denied me the access. Of course, they didn't say about Palestine, but it was sure they had a talk about it because the interviews were independent from another, but the second person asked me like very immediately about, what do you think about Israel? So, and this is about psychotherapy. So this is not about politics. This is not about international relations. This is about fucking psychotherapy. So this was very, it was disgusting. So they denied me access, and it was absolutely obvious that it has the reasons of not wanting me in this institute. The other one was with even more consequences. I started in between this Ausbildung. I started seeing patients, having patients, and in the psychotherapy praxis, or how do you call it, the ambulance I was working in. I posted in between. That was everything was after. So this incident was after October last year. The other one was, I think, 3 years ago or 4 years even. So the last one I'm talking about now was about after October. So I posted on my private Signal a few stories after October 7th started, or everything started. After the genocide started, I posted some views about the right of Palestinian people to resist. And I started feeling that the boss of this ambulance, the psychotherapist boss there, he behaved very strange with me. He started not giving me patients to treat, and then he said, I want to talk to you. And we had like 1 hour talk, and he kicked me out of this ambulance. I was not allowed to see my patients anymore, to make psychotherapy anymore. He was very disgusting with me, like treating me like an insect or something, like saying me rude things like, I don't want to know more about your political views. He was always also like judging me, saying that it's a genocide, saying that I would not tell that Gaza is a concentration camp, also using whataboutism, like, yes, but China and Russia is doing that too. So, and I was like, so yes, okay, but Israel is doing it, so what do you want from me? So yeah, this was a very disgusting incident happening like a few months before, and I couldn't talk about this or couldn't make it public because I think he first of all a white dude, he has also more power. So if I would make that public, I think he could ruin my career in this city, because there are not a lot of psychotherapists. It's not getting better. I don't have the feeling I can accept the injustice that is happening worldwide, and especially in Germany. I just feel it's getting bigger and bigger by day. I don't feel seen, or I don't want to live here anymore. There was one person writing down words, like many, but especially these words were like written down like from my heart. He said that for the future living in Germany, we, especially people who are not white and who are pro-Palestine and who are on the right side of history and who have a migration background also, all these people, we can just live. We can only coexist with white German people in the future, but we can't live together anymore because we are not trusting them. And that's how I feel. I can't imagine ever trusting white German people anymore in any future, in any. It's not possible in my thought. I would wish it would not be like this, but unfortunately German people and this country especially with its government and its institution just ruined my beliefs in humanity, especially in this German humanity now, because I can't speak for each country now. So my belief is, I always thought that what makes it impossible to speak with German people about Palestine is their Holocaust guilt, which is absolutely also a factor. Then I discovered, not maybe discovered, but it made my thought more intense. I saw that it's a lot of racism behind it, since Israel is a country with white norms, and they can absolutely more identify with yoga beach, making yoga in the beach of Tel Aviv, than with a Palestinian person or with Palestinian culture. So there are these two aspects: first, Holocaust guilt, then the racism, which is also denying white feminist people, women or female or whatever, but feminist people deny access to understand the Palestinian cause, because it's an indigenous and it's a brown cause, and it's, I don't know, they're not caring for it at all. That's my experience and that's my view. Also, they come a third cause, and the cause is that the German people, are very self-centered about their own, not only Holocaust guilt regarding Jewish people, but also their Holocaust guilt in general, their Holocaust remembrance. And now, coming with the genocide and all the countries pointing with their fingers on Germany and saying, like, why do you stand on the wrong side of history? German people are now reminded more than ever, that's my view, are now reminded more than ever about the incidents of the Holocaust, and not only about the Jewish people, because we all know that German people don't care for Jewish people at all. So it's not about anti-Semitism. It's of course about their own guilt and about their own will and wish to whitewash their crimes, and to have white clothes, to not have blood on their clothes, and to rewash the remembrance of what they did, like two fucking wars. So this is also like, these three reasons are making it impossible. Like, I could rather go and talk with a car about Palestine than with a German person. It's very sad. So it's not only sad, it's frustrating, it's disgusting. It's a human failure. So yeah. But I also think that it's nowadays more, because I'm talking with individuals who are not in a Palestinian activism, and I don't know about their views before, and I've talked to them, and I discovered that many of them do understand and are on the sides of Palestinian people, but they don't dare to say it out loud, and second, I think it's more about institutions than about people nowadays. I think that many people in Germany do understand the reality that is happening, but it's the institutions that are silencing, and that are making this witch hunt of people being solidar with Palestinians. So yeah, I still have a little hope for the German society, but those three reasons, like the Holocaust guilt regarding not being called an anti-Semite, then the Holocaust guilt of the remembrance and to have the wish of whitewash their crimes, and their own racism, because, I mean, these people were in the Hitlerjugend, these people were Nazis, so this is not going away from now to then. So of course there are still the roots there, and this is not only about the German happening. It's not a German phenomenon. It's a thing, because you can't just wipe out the racism and the fascism that was here like about 70 years ago. It's still somewhere, and it's still in the heads, and it's still in the heads of even the grandparents. So yeah, it's transgenerational, and I think those are the reasons. I hope I could help.
So in terms of Palestine solidarity, I experience that there is a lot of pressure about how I talk and what I say, even if I want to say that direct things or more explicit things. I experience a lot of pressure when I want to speak, even like at protests, especially at protests when there's police. Yeah, there's always fear that anything that I say could be used against me, even if it's just something very like yeah like a common sense and nothing like big, like yeah. So and the left spaces or all this like white spaces give me the feeling or the impression that what's happening is happening in another world. So they are not like really able to address or to give space for what's happening, because I don't know, they put their stuff first and they see it like it's happening somewhere in the world, and they don't have to address everything that's happening in the world or whatever. Like they don't acknowledge that Germany has a direct guilt and impact in what's happening, and that gives them a big responsibility. So that is also a big problem. So when I enter a white space, even if it's a left or alternative or critical space, it turns out for me that the German institution is more powerful than their critical thinking. And yeah, so there's also a lot of gaslighting going on. Like they will always understand the issues from their narrow worldview, so they will wait for me or us to say anything that could prove that we are not like worthy of support or whatever, like not real humans. So there's always like this sense of dehumanization in the air, that we always have to prove that we are human and that we deserve to like grieve and to have like respect for our dead or justice or whatever. Yeah, it's also not given by their spaces. Yeah, and in terms of like police violence, it's clear in what's happening. So the police is waiting for anything to be said that's against them, and they keep making things up. So that's why it's very scary to go to protests and to say anything or to just be at protests, because this puts you in a position that you are like free to be confronted with violence. So it's as if you, whenever you enter a protest, it's legal to beat you or whatever. So yeah, from the police side. So this makes me really, really angry. And yeah.
So in terms of repression, I haven't faced any physical violence, but I mean, from the beginning, I've felt very suffocated. Like since October 7th, no one has been talking about Palestine. At least not unprompted. It was like this elephant in the room that everyone kind of silently hoped that no one would bring up, even as the number of Palestinians murdered kept rising at like an exorbitant rate. And so, I mean, me and I know some others tried forcing the conversation, like in academic spaces. And when we did, people would just dance around the topic, or worse, if you bring up Israel's settler colonial history, and its current genocidal campaign, then you get, warned that you're wandering into anti-Semitic territory by academics, right? And sometimes by students. And if you plan events about Palestine, they get canceled, kind of on the same grounds. Ultimately, because of accusations of anti-Semitism, and you could have the government and the police get involved. The state gets involved, and in terms of challenges that women face in the Palestine solidarity movement, I think it's similar problems to women in any organizing spaces anywhere, being talked over, maybe drowned out by men. And it's not a blanket issue, of course. I'm taken seriously in the spaces that I am present in. I know that for sure. And not every man has this problem, but very often if you want to say something, you really have to push, or someone has to moderate to make sure that you get space, or else someone might just walk right over you, sometimes before you've even finished what you're saying. And people interrupt each other all the time when they speak. It's a natural part of conversation, I would say. But it happens to women and gender marginalized people in a very specific way. It's a little bit difficult to explain unless you see it or you feel it, but it's men don't interrupt each other in that way, if it makes sense. And kind of being raised in a patriarchy, I can only speak for myself, but I know that this is common. You are taught to be very, very mindful about whether other people want to speak also. So sometimes you rein yourself in order to let other people speak. Which I would say is a good thing, except boys and men don't get that same treatment. They don't often get taught that same thing. So you get caught between a rock and a hard place where you're like, okay, I will also want other people to have space, but now the burden is kind of on me to get myself into the conversation. A lot of men also have difficulty noticing when someone, specifically a woman or a gender marginalized person, has something to say. Yeah, it's kind of on us. With the German white feminist community, white feminism has this problem, period. The preoccupation with a very specific subset of women's problems and voices, and a lack of critical analysis on the fronts of race or imperialism or class. It lacks this global lens. I mean, this is what characterizes, white feminism. But in Germany specifically, white feminists in leftist spaces, or even liberal white feminists, they kind of take on this facade of being anti-racists, of having some kind of understanding of colonization and imperialism as it relates to the past, so maybe how it affects people now, but the actual acts of colonization, the active imperialism, are always things that happened in the past, right? If it happens today before their eyes, live, broadcasted to their phones, somehow that understanding completely dissipates, right? And none of their values apply anymore. It's all about, for example, menstrual justice, until Palestinian women are using scraps of their tents to collect blood. It's all about reproductive justice until pregnant Palestinians give birth in refugee camps under hails of Israeli bombs, with access to only almost completely collapsed healthcare system. Sexual violence. They're against sexual violence and humiliation until, pictures of IDF soldiers flaunting underwear and lingerie that Palestinian women left behind in their homes so that they didn't, get bombed out of existence, or until reports, which have been consistent for decades, of sexual assault and battery of Palestinian women by those same soldiers surface. None of their values apply when it comes to Palestinians. And do I feel marginalized or disrespected for my political views? I mean, I was already on the margins as a woman of color in this society. Like, since I got here, I've always felt out of place here in Germany, but I feel that now I've been pushed out to the very, very edge. Like, I'm teetering on the edge. I used to, in the past, I used to walk around being so aware of myself because it's such a white environment that I live in, and I, kind of stick out like a sore thumb, especially in my neighborhood. And, now I don't even think about myself anymore. When I walk around, I think about what these people passing me on the street must think about Palestine. And I've been thinking about this quote by June Jordan a lot recently, a Black American lesbian poet. And her work is really beautiful, and she described Palestine, along with gay and lesbian rights, as the moral litmus test of our time. And so now, instead of being aware of myself, hyper aware of myself, I walk around, and maybe this is unfair, but I walk around looking at people thinking, would you pass? Would you pass? Would you pass? And it's it's not some desire to take the moral high ground for myself, but like I said, this is insanity. We're watching a genocide play by play, broadcasted to our phones from people on the ground. And you can't even get a massive portion of the population to support a ceasefire. This is absolute bare minimum. You can't even get people to agree that it's a genocide. People that are supposedly so intimately bound to that concept, to genocide. Well, no, it wasn't a concept in this situation. This is a place that one of the worst genocides in modern history was carried out, and yet they can't recognize it somehow. So here, 9 times out of 10, I think people wouldn't pass that test. I really don't. Already, I was out on the margins, but I am a complete outsider to the society. Really. And I have no desire to integrate myself into it. No desire.
Unrest Radio.